Here's the wood stitch from the next hole. Finish this hole, penetrate a hole and stitch 6. Then pass the 7th stitch through the next hole. Finish this hole, then find the back stitch from the next hole. If you can't find which hole to wear, just take a look. Which hole does this vertical line correspond to? It's the hole you just wore, and then through another hole adjacent to it. Thus knit finished knitting 9th stitch. And then the 9th knit is done next to the 10th stitch here. 10 finished knitting, 11 stitches here. We count as we knit. It will make it clearer. 11 finished knitting the 12th stitch. 12 finished knitting, the hole next to it is 13 stitches. And here's the last one. This marked place, it just happened to be the 14th stitch. Go through. Hook a coil. Wrap the wire across the 2 coils. 14th finished knitting, 14th finished knitting. This is the last stitch of the second lap. Let's take a look. Here is the last stitch of the second lap. Take this thread off. The last stitch through lap 12. Mark it here. Finished the last stitch of the second loop. You need to take the first and last stitches, connect together. There is a long position in the middle. No needle threading is required. Next, knit the pull needle. Lengthen the thread. Make it smaller. Then crochet. Insert the needle from this first marked here. Go through and hook a coil. Hook the previous coil. Drag directly into the latter coil. After towing, break this thread down with your hand. Flatten. Elongate the thread. This coil on the crochet is very small, and then you wind and crochet a lock needle. The second lap is done. Second lap, the first and last stitches by pulling and locking pins. Connect together. Next, lap 3. The method is exactly the same as the second lap, or use a short needle. The only thing that needs attention when threading a needle, it is like this, 1 hole and 1 needle. Don't wear too much. This is where the first stitch is. Crochet it in. Hook a coil. Crochet winding across 2 coils. The first stitch of the third lap. It's done. The following hand must be taken off, then wear it at the position of the first needle in the third circle. This is the position of the first stitch of the third lap. Mark it. Be sure to mark. Then it will be clear. Look at this vertical bar. Between each vertical bar is a short needle. Between these 2 vertical bars, just a short needle. Pierce needles into these holes. First knit well, knit second stitch. The vertical bar corresponds to here. It's where the needle was threaded just now. Knit the second stitch here. Thread the needle here. Finish the second stitch, then the third stitch. The position of the third needle threading. The second stitch is here. Move the third needle to the left. Third needle. Then the fourth stitch is here. The position of the fourth needle. The fifth stitch is here. Count while knitting. 14 in total. This is woven to the fifth one. The fifth one is finished. Move left 6th. Then move to the left. And here's number 7. Move 8 to the left. Continue to move left. This is the 8th threading position. Then move to the left. This is the 9th position. Then move to the left. This is the 10th stitch. then the 11th stitch. Move the 12th stitch to the left. Then 13 stitches here. 14 stitch is the position of the last stitch. Let's take a look. The place to mark is the 16th stitch. The instructions are correct. And then this is done. Remove the marked coil. Then put it through the hole of the last stitch. This is our last shot. Mark it. Start knitting the pull needle. Connect the first and last stitches. Before knitting the lead needle, pull this long line first. Make this coil smaller. And then from the first stitch of the mark here, wear it in. Then hook the long line. Hook a coil. Drag this coil into the previous coil. After towing, break this coil down. Flatten it out. Adjust this long wire again. Make this coil on the crochet smaller, then go round the line. Dragging through the coil is a locking pin. The third lap is complete. Take a look at what we knitted. This is the first lap, second lap, third lap. Each of these bars is a circle. This is the third lap, and then the third turn, and then the fourth. The method is still the same. Crochet is still from this. Inside the big hole marked by the first mark. Go through and hook a coil. Crochet round the thread like this. Drag through 2 coils. The first knit of the fourth lap is done. It's this big hole. Take your hands off. Buckle on the first pin of the fourth circle. Take a look at the adjacent vertical bar. Here's the first shot. Finish the first knit and the second stitch. The position of the second needle is this big hole between these 2 vertical bars is the second needle. And then the next one, this big hole between the 2 vertical bars, is our third shot. And the next one, here's the fourth stitch. Next here is the 5th stitch. Here is the 6th stitch. The 6th stitch is down here. Knit the 7th stitch here. So here's the 8th stitch. And here's the 9th stitch. Here is the 10th stitch. Here is the 11th stitch. 12 turns here. Here are 13 stitches. And then the next hole just happens to be marked. Here is the 10th stitch. Each large circle is 10 stitches. And then after knitting the 10th stitch, extract the hand with the last stitch. The last stitch in this circle, inside this big hole. Inside this big hole under the crochet, is the 10th stitch. Mark it. This is the last stitch. After knitting, pull the long line. The coil on the crochet is smaller. Then do the pull needle. Don't worry about this from the middle. Mark the position of the first needle directly. Crochet through. Hook a coil. Drag the hooked coil directly to. Drag it directly into the back coil. After dragging it over, turn this coil down. Flatten it out. And you pull this long string, turn down the coil on the crochet. Then crochet, winding, go through this coil and complete a lock pin. The fourth lap is done. 1 lap, 2 laps, 3 laps and 4 laps. Fourth lap completed. The weaving method of the 5th circle is still the same. The crochet is still going through this one. Wear it in this big hole in the portable thread. This is the first needle to go through. Hook the coil. Winding. Drag through 2 coils. The first stitch is done and then take this hand off. Thread it here on the first stitch. This big hole. Here's our first shot. The first stitch is worn. Next, second stitch. This is where the first needle goes through. The second stitch is it here. This big hole between the two vertical bars. It's the second shot. Then the third stitch. It's this big hole between these two vertical bars. Third needle. Then the next vertical bar. Here is the fourth frame. And then next here, frame 5. Next here is the loose stitch. Next here is the 7th stitch. Here is the 8th stitch. Next here frame 9. Here is the 10th stitch. Here is the 10th stitch. Next hole 11 stitches. Next hole 12 stitches. "13 stitches for the next hole. Then the next hole just happens to be in the hand. The marked position is the 14 pin. Each circle is 14 short needles. And you do 14 needles. Extract the hand with the last stitch, or the V shape worn on the last stitch. Inside this big circle, this is the last of the 14 stitches. Mark it. After marking, then do the pull needle. Adjust the wire smaller first. Go through the first stitch. Hook a coil. Put this coil. Drag it directly into the back coil. Drag it into the back coil. Then manually press this coil down. Crochet this coil. Make the longer line smaller. Crochet winding across the coil. Completed a lock pin. The 5th loop is done. 1 lap, 2 laps, 3 laps, 4 laps, 5 laps. A vertical bar is a circle. After the 5th lap is completed, start knitting the 6th lap. The knitting method is the same as before, or from the portable here. Start the first shot. Needle insertion. Go through and hook a coil, then wind more than 2 coils. This is the first stitch of the 6th lap. And take off this lower handle. Thread in the position of the first needle. The first needle in the 6th circle is worn. The adjacent big hole needs the 2nd stitch. Connected hole 3D stitch. This hole knitting the 4th stitch. This hole knitting the 5th stitch. This hole knitting the 6th stitch. This hole knits the 7th stitch. This hole knitting the 8th stitch. The 9th stitch of this hole. Then this hole is the 10th stitch. Then 11 stitches in this hole.